Kevin Lin served as a Chinese interpreter for Queen Elizabeth II on several occasions. He was with the monarch when she received President Xi Jinping on his state visit to the UK in 2015. The Queen awarded him Officer of the Order of the British Empire in 2011 in honour of his contributions to Chinese-British ties. I asked him about his first impressions of Her Majesty.
Before working for her, my impression was entirely based on the television reports and the press. And in those days, there were fairly critical comments. But when I met her, it really just changed my impression of her completely. And she was receiving the visiting president of China. And at the state banquet, I remember that was quite late in the evening. I felt quite tired, having worked quite intensely for about 10 hours already. And she was 72 or 73 years old already, but she spent the whole 3 hours. I still remember that was about the longest state banquet I've been to. She spent 3 hours talking to the guest, making sure that the conversation flowed, and engaging, interested. Even sitting there, I was thinking to myself, this woman deserves my respect. I wish I would be able to be this interesting as a person at that age and 10 o'clock in the evening.
And in enormous command of her subject.
Absolutely. We could all try a few pleasantries, perhaps hold a conversation with a total stranger, possibly having no shared interest for a few minutes, maybe 10 or 20 minutes. But for 3 hours, I just felt that she must have done this many times over many years, knowing exactly what to say, what not to say. And we all know that she's not supposed to say anything that might be controversial, and at the same time making the guest feel welcome, and the whole process itself, it's just mind-boggling. I can't. In fact, after that day, I did ask myself, would I be able to do that? And the answer was clearly no. And it was really during those 2 days when I was at Buckingham Palace that I realized what it meant to perform her official duty. It was really a duty to her. It wouldn't have been anything she would prefer or liked to do remotely, not even remotely so. So it was performing the duty and doing so day in and day out for 70 years. And this is part of the reason why I feel very sad to lose her.
And the Queen, the first member of the British royal family to visit China, how important was she in fostering good relations between the two countries?
Hugely symbolic. She visited China in 1986. Looking back, I realized that it was such a monumental moment for a British monarch to visit China in those days. And those were the early days of the economic reform of China. And that was the beginning of the China that we see today. And in fact, in 2006, I think there were talks of possibly arranging a visit for her to return to China 30 years after her initial visit. But at the time, I understood she was already quite fragile. She had to reduce long-haul overseas visits, and somehow that didn't happen, which is an unfortunate outcome of it. But nevertheless, that particular visit in 1986 really paved the way for a lot of the things that happened between these two countries afterwards.